Good afternoon. How are you? I have it set up. Oh my gosh, I got a messed up camera here. Let me fix this. I think I gotta get there like that. Okay. Sorry about that. That's one thing I did need to fix. I didn't get it done. There's probably gonna be some how do I put it? There's probably gonna be some uh kinks in today's broadcast. I'm doing something I haven't done before, and I need to see how it's going. I'm testing my streaming. Um, like right now, we can't get to the stream, which isn't good. So I have to go this way. Actually, I could have done it a different way. Could have done it like this. Now, um, if I'm right, there's gonna be a delay there. So I wanted to turn off the sound so there wasn't like feedback. But if it's right and I've got it, okay, cool. So I've now got my stream on the Deerwood Realty and Friends podcast site. So it was very important to me to get to that point because um, over the years, I've watched creators end up not being, how do I put it? I've watched creators go on all these different places and then get disappeared, you know. And it's not that I'm worried about disappeared. It's not like I think there's something that I'm doing that warrants being canceled, but the things that these other people are doing also doesn't seem to warrant them being canceled either. So the way it's set up now, if I ever do get thrown off YouTube, if I ever do get thrown off of Facebook, if I ever do get thrown off of wherever else I'm at, I'm on Twitter, and now I'm on the website. So Deerwood Realty and Friends, you can go there and you'll get a stream and you don't have to worry about anything. Now, the problem with that right now is you can't chat. Okay. You can't join the chat. You will be able to join the chat soon. That's what I'm being told. And you can also go straight to I'm not going to tell you who because I don't want to get them in trouble or canceled, but this is it. Now, is the Deerwood Realty and Friends podcast page in good shape? No, I forgot I had it. And that leads to my main story of today. I don't know why, but I'm finally feeling good. Like I have not felt well in a long time. I've not felt happy, content, inspired. I just haven't. It's not really depression so much. It's just bad things kept happening, and I could never really like climb over one disappointment. So I'd get a serious disappointment, and it would kind of hold me back. And today, I feel good. I mean, like, I feel great. That I've had setbacks today, and we'll go over them. But just in general, my disposition is pleasant, like happy, content, and it hasn't been that way for a long time. And I'm just happy to feel this way again. I thought I was a relatively pleasant person and happy, but it looked like I was just angry. So anyway, um, you know, in live streams and shows, you have to be able to tell a story, and I've not been good at it. And I confess. So today is no exception. We'll try and get through a story and see if I do any better on it. But um, I'm doing a lot of things. Okay, there's a lot going on, and I think that leads to sometimes things falling through the cracks. I went to the Deerwood Realty and Friends website, and I noticed that the podcast hadn't been updated since August, And then I looked at my I looked I looked at Deerwood Realty and Friends podcast on Spotify, and it hadn't been updated since October. Same thing was true with Apple Podcasts, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was wondering why my podcast numbers were down. I guess now we know. And so I was talking to my web guy, and we were trying to go through it. There's just something screwed up about the way our page works with the stuff that we've got, like on the main site. See, the podcast goes to the main site and then it gets distributed. So I think we're going to get that all fixed. I think it's been hurting me pretty bad in the SEO, but I think my SEO is pretty bad anyway. So, 6 and 1, half dozen of the other. But yeah, I have not been, I have been, you've seen me live stream and everything, but the podcast hasn't gone out since October. I just found out about it now. It's February. So it is February 1st. This causes some excitement around here. We're going to have, at some point, we'll have a new thumbnail for the month, new thumbnail design. That'll be fun. We have a new playlist. It'll be the February live streams. And I'm finally getting to the point where I'm feeling like more comfortable with the live streams. Today is a little bit of a rushed program because I'm just rushed. But I wanted to get something out. I wanted to get something down. And I found out about the podcast not going out. That was disappointing. And then I've been looking forward to having I have just a huge dilemma with the computer. Now, you probably know, or if you've been around any time, you know that I don't want to get a new computer right now. I'm waiting for the Intel new board to come out, and it's not going to come out until like next year, if it does come out. And I just feel really weird getting a computer right now, especially with the graphics card situation the way it is, at least with the high-end cards, that shouldn't be that high. And I've literally been running a computer since for 10 years. And I need USB 3.0 to run certain things like my camera and some other things. And so I only have two 3.0 ports. And so, I mean, how it manifests itself, when I first got the Rodecaster Pro 2, I wasn't able to turn on my computer because it was powering up the motherboard and it would just shut off. So I was really in a bad spot. I figured out a way through that. Although, let me know how the sound goes today. I'll watch the video later. But this sound last night's was just gorgeous. But anyway, I had bought an extra hub an internal hub for my computer for more 3.0 USBs. But then I needed a new graphics card, I decided, because my graphics card was terrible. I'm not able to get like a good card, like a real good card, but I was able to get, I think, a better card. And from what I can see based on, I'll check it now, which is always a bad idea and always dicey. I'll see how things are going. You're gonna hear a noise, but I'll see. But I needed to get a card that at least runs 4K and doesn't freak out. So let's see how that. Here we go. Okay. So hopefully that didn't cause too much trouble for you. I just want to see. So my processor is a little bit higher than I'd like it to be for temperature, but all in all, the graphics card is doing its job. I'm not over taxing the card, and things look pretty good. And hopefully it translates to a better show for you. And then again, like at the end of the year, I'm going to get a new computer. That being said, when I went to put in the graphics card, it was a dual slot graphics card. And so I had to get rid of my 3.0 hub. So there was quite a bit of concern whether or not I was even going to be able to use everything. It turned out it's okay. As long as the sound works today, we're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. And then how you can help. Well, I think the best thing, like I had a great day on YouTube today. I'm up to 140 subscribers. I had been at 138 and then dropped one, and that was very sad. Um, but now I'm up to 140, and I just want to keep the march, keep going. I want to be um, I want to be monetized on YouTube. If you want to help me out even more on Rumble, I need 25 subscribers on Rumble so that I can stream on Rumble, and I'd be happy to do so. I have no problem streaming to different platforms where people are. And the website for me, Deerwood Realty and Friends, is just the last ditch effort, like last place you can find me. Um, there's locals. I have a locals page, but I don't normally stream there because I'm at such a low tier. I don't get much response. Plus, at the end of the day, I'm not a full time streamer. Um, I'm a full time real estate agent, and maybe we should go through the introduction. My name is John Shank, and I'm the founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a small real estate firm. We focus mainly on helping buyers buy homes and sellers selling theirs. In the evenings, during the day, I do the Deerwood Realty live stream, which is the Deerwood Realty and Friends podcast as well. Um, we don't have a lot of guests right now because, again, no one comes to our show right now saying, oh, look at what I can get. Look, I can get, a bunch of viewers. No, I mean, my audience is small, they're mighty, and I appreciate everybody being out there and helping me. But yeah, we talk about pop culture. We talk about my day as a real estate agent, and then we talk about real estate news, and we'll get to that soon. Usually at this time, I like to bring something in pop culture wise. I don't have anything today. I'm not in the mood. I've been working today. Now, there are other ways you can find me. Like I started an Instagram page, John Shank Realtor, and we got our first post together for that. Now look, I've got a little red thing right here. Interesting. So you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on the Deerwood Realty page on Instagram. If you're looking for Deerwood Realty and if you're looking for John Shank, you're going to find me, I think, online. I think I've got it now to where, you'll find me. So I didn't see a whole lot to talk about as far as popular culture right now. I mean, there's some sports stuff. Sean Payton, I believe, is going to be the coach of the Broncos. It's not really interesting to me. Derek Carr, I believe, he needs to be traded or something. They need to redo his contract. Again, not something that's that exciting for me. So we're just going to kind of, like, Laverne and Shirley, one of the Shirleys died. I think it was Shirley or Laverne. One of them died, and this is an odd thing as you age, you watch people that you saw on TV. I mean, as a kid, there'd be reruns of all those shows on during the day, and we'd watch. Oh my gosh, so it just I don't know what bit me. Anyway, so 75 years old, headed out now. I wanted to talk about something instead. And I don't know how to do this without getting, I don't know, in trouble on YouTube. Let me get a drink. The YouTube community guidelines are not clear. They're not clear anyway. They're not obvious. You can get a copyright strike. You can get a strike. A community strike. You have no idea what you even do wrong. It's always very, very vague what happens. But if you go back maybe 2 days and look at my live stream from 2 days ago, you'll see underneath the live stream where the title should be, there's this warning and a link to a government agency with information on the government agency from 2019. And it's like, wow. And I know certain things you can't talk about. So I try not to talk about them. But I didn't say anything negative about this particular topic during that program, and I still got stuck with an information box underneath the video, and I'm shocked. I mean, it's bad. So, that led me to believe that it's, everyone's days on YouTube are numbered. You must be other places if you want to be found, and so that's the way it's going to be. I like YouTube. I'd love to stay on the platform, but the way they just throw people out willy nilly, I mean, it's just a matter of time. You're not allowed to speak your mind on YouTube at this time. There's no way. So, anyway, how are you? It's February 1st. The Fed came out and raised the borrowing rate 25 basis points and put out a statement. Markets kind of rallied. I do care about when the Fed raises rates because it typically is somewhat aligned with mortgage rates, and so I do pay attention to the Fed, and I don't know. I don't know why I have to have this itch here. Ugh. But anyway, so I think we'll go into the main part of the show now, and just see how things go. So here we go. Let's do this. So hopefully you can see the screen. Let me just double check to make sure you can. Yes, you can. So this is Deerwood Realty. This is our main site. And if you go down and look down here on the left, there's a mortgage rate. What are the current rates basically? And it's showing that the rates dropped overnight from 6.17 to 6.04 percent on a 30-year fix. That's a decrease of 13 basis points. All this while the Fed raised borrowing 25 basis points. Does the Fed action have an impact on 30-year rates? Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we should not be. It's not exactly parallel though, is what I would say. I mean, just because the Fed raised rates 25 basis points doesn't mean that mortgage rates will go up 25 basis points. In fact, they went down today. I saw this happen once before though. I think it's going to go back up. I'm not certain, but if you have any sort of insight, then good. Okay. I see. When I got the new graphics card, it also should have helped my audio, which had been a mess. So hopefully that worked. But anyway, that's just it. I mean, that's the big news. The market rallied. I don't feel comfortable with the situation, but I'm not really in charge. So let's move on. We'll get to your tweets today. Here we go. The first one. Oh man, it's going to be this way. This is from Ryan Lundcrest. He's in Sacramento, I believe. It says buyers aren't playing games. Sellers price it right. The housing market is heating up for the spring, but there is still a limited pool of buyers shopping right now. This is in California then, because we're not to the spring market here in St. Louis. I would not say the market is hot for sellers. I think sellers should price it right. I think that's true. Now, he writes later, he says, I'm not saying there isn't competition, but it's not the same vibe as 2021 where buyers were offering massive amounts over the list price, waiving all contingencies and not getting credits from sellers. Buyers are picky about price, location, and condition. And then this fellow he wrote wrong. Plenty of buyers in the Bay Area and Seattle. Multiple bids are back. And then Ryan said, the market isn't the same everywhere. We're also seeing an increase in multiple bids. Should be happening at this time of year, not 2021 levels, though, and not always going above. Different vibe. Buyers are still picking, not hearing much about removing all contingencies. Are you? So, I think you can get a deal done right now. I don't think there's any issue as long as the house is priced right. We were talking about a house yesterday where they didn't sell the house for 6 months starting in June. Then they came back to market at the price they left the market as was still way too high. So I don't expect that house to sell. Multiple offers. On a good house, I can probably get multiple offers still. I don't want to. On the buyer side, I don't want to because now I'm raising the price for my buyer. But if interest rates keep going down, not good. Not good, depending on where you are. We talked about that yesterday, where there was just such a. It seems like there's so much to do with financing and wealth instead of, actual like growth. I don't know. That's where I'm at on that one. I also made a mistake. This was supposed to be the last tweet of the show, and so I made it first. Moving on. I thought this was interesting. I thought we should talk about it. It says Michael Burry has now deleted his account after tweeting this yesterday. He tweeted sell. Michael Burry, who is he? He was the guy that did the Great Short. He predicted house prices would go down, and so he shorted them and made all kinds of money. That's the legend. I don't know if it's true or not. So what does this mean? What are we to make of this? He's been bearish for a long time. I mean, it's so strange to me. Like people prognosticate the future of housing and the future of the economy, and it's just like everyone has their own. Somebody will use charts. Somebody will use a valuation method that's more traditional, and it's just fascinating to me. I mean, you have the brightest people in the world now, where you have visibility for everything, and yet we still don't know. Like we still aren't any better off. Just getting more voices doesn't seem to get us better off as far as actually predicting what's going on in the economy. I don't know. I'm not thrilled about house prices right now for buyers. This is a long tweet thread. This is from Jeff Winiger. It says, we're going with Winiger. I don't know what it is. These are the most recessionary charts in the regional Fed surveys right now. So now we're talking about recession. We just talked about, the biggest bear, decided that he is not a bear, we think, but we're interpreting something that we don't know. It's very strange. It's very strange. And then when the guy, if he is successful at his prognostication, then people will be like, no, it didn't. It's just weird. It's the world we live in. But here we go. The New York Fed general business conditions, very few respondents saying conditions are higher. We only saw numbers like this during the global financial crisis and such early days. I'm not even going to say the word because I don't want the thing at the bottom of my video. Okay, it says buyers were putting in extra orders when the supply chain was messed up because they didn't know how long the problem would last. Now the rubber band is snapping back. In the Northeast, new orders are telling us activity will be weak this spring and summer. It says we have similar results in the Kansas City Fed survey. Respondents spanned Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Wyoming, Colorado, and parts of New Mexico, all down. Okay. These are new orders. It's across the country. New orders look ugly in the Richmond territory too, which covers Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and most of West Virginia and DC. Then it says East Coast companies are saying that they expect shipments to go way down this year. So many people are talking about the hot labor market at the very moment is about to become cold. Now, this is interesting. Today, some of the justification for why the economy was going for a soft landing was because employment was still high. Okay. And so now this fellow, Wisdom Tree head of equities, market stocks, regular contributor on financial media, he says so many people are talking about the hot labor market at the very moment it's about to become cold. What does that mean? Work hours are being cut in middle America. Employers always cut your work hours first because they don't want to have to fire people. That comes next. And I think that's true. For all the hatred and vitriol one has for their employer, the employer sees someone as like, we don't want to retrain someone. We don't want to have to pay to do that. Let's just cut hours. It says they're also cutting hours in the Philadelphia's Fed territory, which covers most of Pennsylvania plus chunks of New Jersey and Delaware. Hiring freezes are key 2023-2024 theme. Running factories at full capacity, I think that's coming to an end. 10 out of 10, this is it. It says it's pretty clear orders are falling hard, work hours are being cut, capacity is peaking, expectations are tumbling, recession, end. You know, if you're me, I mean, I was talking to my favorite lender, you know, in July, and I'm saying, how can this possibly be going like, I mean, how can we possibly be going like this? You know? I mean, how can it be this? How can it be this? I don't know if crazy is the right word, but how can it just be going so um like how can we have these multiple offers? How can we have all this stuff happening? And I said it's like we're on a slow moving train wreck. And even now, I mean, I listed a condo this week and I thought probably wouldn't get anybody even to go see it. And we had quite a few showings. Um, it's harder to get that deal done. We've been on the market now twice before, but I don't know. We'll see. This was interesting. This is from NAR Research. Mortgage rates will likely drop even further this week as weren't any big surprises from the Federal Reserve's meetings today. I don't think anybody was too surprised. In fact, I think from what I'm reading is that the Fed kind of screwed up in the sense that the press conference wasn't so great as far as setting expectations for the future. Now, I don't know. I'm not a Fed watcher like that. I don't really like to go and try to interpret what the Fed is saying or anything like that. But anyway, it says mortgage rates will likely drop even further this week as there weren't any big surprises from the Federal Reserve's meeting today. We may even see rates slip below the 6% threshold, matching investors' expectations. The Federal Reserve raised short-term interest rates by 25 basis points. It's clear that the Federal Reserve has already switched to a smaller rate hikes as inflation is easing. As a result, the 10-year Treasury yield, an indicator for mortgage rates, dipped to 3.39% from 3.46% the previous week. Freddie Mac will release the 30-year fixed mortgage rate tomorrow at noon. Stay tuned. I mean, I maybe I'm the only one, but I don't think there's been as much of a I don't believe that inflation is easing. Okay, in any meaningful way. For example, go look at eggs. Go look at cars. We're still seeing on the back end, we're seeing more repossessions, more cars in default, more loans in default, but we're not seeing a dent in the sales. I mean, GM had a blowout quarter last year. And I mean, GM, that's crazy. Crazy. John Wake on Twitter. This is an interesting thing. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. It says every good realtor I speak to is saying the same thing. The feeling the market is heating up, more sales urgency and confidence, but the data doesn't show that. I don't think that way. But watch, it says when the market gets bad, people go to the good agents. That's why they're feeling it. Bad agents won't feel it at all. So does that mean I'm a bad agent? I don't know. Kind of hurtful. I don't think it's true. And here's why. I don't think that, how do I put it? Like, let's say that you're a young new home buyer. Okay. You're probably going to pick someone that your parents picked, or you're probably going to pick somebody that your best friend used. Okay. The only way to not get a horrible agent. You're not going to know that you've got a horrible agent or not, as long as the referral did a good job in the buyer's eyes. So I don't agree with this flat out. When the market gets bad, people go to the good agents. For who? On which side? On the seller side? Is it really that bad? Mm. So I just disagree. But it says, look, this is the host of the Canadian Real Estate Investor Podcast. Maybe that's true in Canada. I mean, I can count on my hand the amount of investors I have. And I don't really feel bad about that because I don't really enjoy looking at properties all day long and writing lowball offers. It really doesn't do anything for me. It's just a waste of my time. Last one, Alpha on Twitter. The first innings of a recession always look like a soft landing. One, the labor market weakens, but not yet enough to generate job losses. Two, earnings decline, but not yet negative year over year. Three, inflation drops, but not yet in a recessionary manner. Not yet a recession until it is. Man, I just don't know. I just don't know. It seems, I mean, like the thing that's tripping me up is the inflation number, or not the inflation number, the employment number. How can you have such strong employment in a recession? Like like how strong is our economy when we can weather all of these things? I suspect war has something to do with this, or our spending for war. Um, but it's odd. I mean, 3.5% unemployment. That's ridiculous. It's great, but now I just wanted to go and we got 3 articles. I think I'll get to all 3 of them today because it is about a half hour in. By the way, if you do see something that you like or you want to talk about sometime, go ahead and put it in the chat. Go ahead and put it in the comment section. I'll answer the question at least the best I can if I understand it. Some people write me things I don't understand what they're saying. Like you send me like 4 emojis. I don't know what that means. So here we go. It says, this was from Zero Hedge. I like Zero Hedge. People hate it, some of them. And, you're free to do whatever you want. But it says, this has the housing market bottomed? The surprising result from a little known market indicator. I always like this reminds me of the movie Dumb and Dumber, where it's like, so you're saying there's a chance. It may come as a bit of a shock to those who have been following the creeping freeze in housing transactions as the bid-ask spread grows to monstrous proportions, leading to a record crash in pending home sales. There you go. Okay. And collapse in U.S. home prices, especially on the West Coast. But even though mortgage rates ticked higher back to 6% in January, there's a growing speculation that the housing market has bottomed. Why? Because as Goldman Rich Porowski notes, bet you didn't know there were housing price futures. They bottomed in Q4 and have been rallying. Indeed, the housing composite index traded on the CME is up decidedly in the past month after hitting a 16-month low in November. Did you know that there was a housing futures? Like, how do you deliver housing? I mean, do you understand like orange juice futures? I understand that. I think there's futures in all the metals, but I had no idea that there was a housing price futures composite. Anyway, why this surprising bounce? A big reason for the unexpected rebound may be a recent report from real estate company Redfin, which last Wednesday reported that the housing market has begun to recover from a trough in the second week of November, with buyers returning at a faster pace than sellers. The number of Redfin customers asking for first tours has improved by 17 percentage points from the November low, and the number of clients contacting. Now, Redfin is a weird deal because they never make money. I think they've made money 1 quarter out of their entire 20 some odd year existence. They have a different pricing model. I'm not going to kick Redfin. I like their research a lot, But I don't know that I don't believe that someone's reading Redfin and then trading housing stock futures. Furthermore, according to the report, Redfin agents to begin the home buying process has improved by 13 points. I've seen more homes go under contract this month than the entire fourth quarter. Angela Langone, a San Jose, California real estate agent, said in the report. Among notable market moves, Redfin points to mortgage applications, which are up 28% from November, as the average 30-year fixed mortgage has dropped 6.1 to 6.15% from its peak of 7.08% in November. Okay. The biggest decline since 2009. Pending home sales rose 3% in December from November. But see, I'm in St. Louis and my market is different. And I'm telling you, it's not like this. Among notable, preliminary data on the share of Redfin agents offers facing bidding wars points to small uptakes in the Seattle and Tampa markets this month. However, since this is not even a trend, expected to take some time before bidding wars nationally show an upward trend. It says bidding wars are back in Seattle. Local Redfin agent said one of our Issaquah listings got 12 offers and under contract for $155,000 over the $1.4 million list price. The buyer waived every contingency, handed over $300,000 of earnest money, and is letting the seller stay for free for 2 months after closing. Another home in Seattle's popular Ballard neighborhood was recently delisted after sitting on the market for over 3 months. The seller relisted it last week and it went pending in under a day. I mean, like listen to me, buyers. If you don't want a market where there's multiple offers on properties, don't do when you hear that there's multiple offers, just say no. And you say, well, I can't do that because every house is going to be sold. No, you can. You can either wait it out, which sucks, I agree, or just put in offers where you're comfortable with the price and be done with it. Those are the two things to do. So Eric Alcello, Redfin's team manager in Tampa, has seen 3 modest single-family homes priced around $300,000 wind up in bidding wars in Central Florida this month with 16, 17, and 23 competing offers, respectively. You crazy. By the way, my new Roadcaster has a big soundboard, and I intend to use it. I'm not using it right now because I don't understand how to use it. Like I haven't learned. And I did get the computer fixed today. So it's possible that I'll be having time for that. I also wanted to get my picture put in the set, and I didn't get that done today. So, shame on me. I was just checking the chat. Nobody's there. But while one can accuse Redfin of bias, after all, the company recently laid off some 13% of its employees due to the housing market collapse. So it's certainly interested in sparking some animal spirits in the sector. It is not alone in predicting a housing recovery. 1 week ago, Goldman's Jan Hatzus published the bank's housing outlook for 2023, in which he predicted that home sales appear to be set to turn higher. That's because mortgage purchase applications have averaged 9% above their October trough so far in January, and survey-based measures of purchasing intentions have rebounded sharply. And while Goldman expects that existing home sales could decline further, but will likely bottom in Q1 before rebounding modestly at year end. Now, I don't know the future. I have no idea. I don't know why I would. I don't know. I don't understand this. Anyway, let's continue. It says, here are some more observations from the Goldman note. It says, we forecast that the housing starts will take longer to stabilize, declining to a trough pace of 1.25 million in 2023 Q4 versus 1.4 million in 2022 Q4, recovering next year. We expect completions to go to total 1.5 million this year, the most since 2007, which will help clear the backlog of homes under construction and contribute to a modest increase in the homeowner vacancy rate. We expect peak to trough decline in national home sale prices of roughly 6%, and for prices to stop declining around mid-year. Well, so this is February, so right around June, that should be the end of it. Based on this, it says, on a regional basis, we project larger declines across the Pacific Coast and Southwest regions, which have seen the largest increases in inventory on averages, more modest declines across the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest, which have maintained greater affordability over the last couple of years. So St. Louis is right here. They've got us going up. which would be ridiculous. Higher rates and lower home prices will increase the drag on the GDP growth from negative wealth effects and declining mortgage equity withdrawal, but we believe that the aggregate drag on GDP growth from the housing sector peaked in 2022 Q4 at 1.1 and will moderate to just 0.25 by 2023. We talked about this. The idea that housing contributed to an economic expansion, and then it was dragging on the economy. I don't know if that's I don't know. As here goes, if the housing price futures market and Goldman is right on pricing in a housing trough, then the consequences could confound markets. On one hand, its stabilization in housing will likely make any coming recession less severe. On the other, since housing is the primary channel by which the Fed can slow down the economy, any failure to cripple this key U.S. asset could mean that Powell will be stuck in a higher for longer mode for well longer than the market expects. As a remainder, as the following Morgan Stanley chart shows, consensus is that the Fed is about 8 months away from its first rate cut, which will probably be followed by about 4.5 25-point rate cuts. I don't know. Like, is it the Fed's job to fix the economy, or is it the Fed's job to fix inflation? Like, which takes precedent? I don't believe this, what I'm reading. I'm just telling you. I mean, I see that it's rosy and good news. The issue to me is we've got record high credit card debt. We have record low savings in the country. And then we have high employment. How can you have, how can this continue? I mean, the people that are being laid off, or the people that can't afford their things as it is, at some point are going to be like, I don't even care if I work because I'm so far in debt. It doesn't matter, I guess. I don't know. Put it in the chat. This is a big story. First-time homebuyers are royally screwed. I don't know when it came out. It came out in January 2023, towards the end. So it's only about 2 weeks away. Let's go through this and see if I agree with what is being said, because I don't know if I do. It says Lawrence Talley was ready to buy his first house. This was in late 2019. And Talley, then a 26-year-old software developer, had saved up enough for a down payment while living with his parents in a suburb near Richmond, Virginia. After looking at a few houses in the area, he won out on a nearby home for $315,000, right at the asking price. But before he could officially become a first-time homeowner, an inspection revealed the house needed as much as $40,000 worth of repairs. He decided to back out of the contract. Better deals would come around. He thought, now this is a very interesting framing. Let's talk about this. What if this house was priced for $315,000 and the realtor priced it low because they were aware of all the repairs that needed to be made? What if this neighborhood is a $350,000 neighborhood? I mean, you're paying less to get into a neighborhood that's where there's value. It's kind of sweat equity. You make the repairs, and now your house is worth $5,000 more than it would be otherwise. I don't know that that's such a big deal. I don't like people walking out of deals in general. And I have a question, like, so what is the $40,000? Does it need a new roof? Does it need a new roof this month? Is the basement foundation cracked and broke? Is there a basement at all? Now Talley wish he would have bought the home after all. The surge in home prices during the COVID pandemic meant that by the time he jumped back into the market during the summer of 2021, it was too late. The median price for a home in his zip code had risen by more than $100,000. I mean, even if it drops $50,000, you're still out $50,000. And that, I mean, he bungled it. Okay, that guy bungled it. For the first time home buyers like Talley, we're going with that, the outlook has never been bleaker. The double whammy of skyrocketing home prices and surging interest rates has pushed home ownership further out of reach, while a decade of underbuilding has left the latest generation of hopeful owners with fewer options and stiffer competition for listings. Well, we say that, but who are these first-time home buyers? How many? I mean, who are all these people trying to buy houses? This unfortunate combination means first-time homebuyers are waiting longer to purchase homes and winning out with less frequency than ever before. Between June of 2021 and June of 22, the typical first-time homebuyer was 36-year-old, the highest median age since the National Association of Realtors started surveying buyers in 1981. And during that year, first-time buyers accounted for just 26% of all home purchases, the lowest percentage ever. Well, let's talk about that. So, one of the things I would like to know is, just on an aggregate basis, are these people making enough money to be able to buy a house? And if the answer is no, then the economy is not very strong to me, because the people working can't afford the things that they want. And that's the way it seems to me. It says it's clear that the pandemic has exacerbated inequalities in the housing market, forcing a greater divide between those who already own their own home and those who are still searching for that opportunity. And while there may be some short-term relief on the horizon, housing activists worry that without some sort of large-scale intervention, the long-term obstacles for first-time homebuyers will continue to mount. Now, look, first-time homebuyers in St. Louis, there's at least 3 banks that have programs where they give you closing credits, and it's a significant number. As far as inequalities in the housing market, um, forging a greater divide between those who already own their home and those who are still searching for that opportunity. Now, look, if you bought a home and your mortgage rate's at 2 or 3%, okay, you're not selling. Okay. So that really kind of screws up the stock, the available properties for sale. Um, but that wasn't done by the market. That was done by the manipulation of interest rates. It says, meanwhile, would-be buyers are stuck with the feeling that they've been locked out of the market entirely. Telej, who's now 29, summed up his cohort's position with a grim acknowledgement: "We're royally screwed." Now, look, now don't take this the wrong way. This fellow is 29 years old, put down $300,000, or put down an offer for $300,000 house that's now worth $400,000, and he is complaining. He's a software engineer. Um, he's not. It's not like he's working at McDonald's. That's what you should really pay attention to. If this guy can't afford a house, how many other people do you think can't afford a house? The new first-time homebuyer says the profile of the typical first-time homebuyer has dramatically shifted over the past few decades, and even more so in the years since the housing market meltdown in 2008. The most recent National Association of Realtor data indicates that the new face of first-time homebuyers homeownership is older, richer, more likely to be unmarried, and more likely to be moving right from their parents' home. Perhaps the most striking shift is the new age of homebuyers. The median age of someone purchasing their first home in 1981 was 29. Over the next 30 years, that figure barely creeped up, rising to just 30 in 2010. But in the past decade, the median age has ticked up even higher, reaching a record of 36 last year. And according to Jessica Lautz, the deputy chief economist and vice president of research for NAR, National Association of Realtors, there's reason to believe the first-time buyers will skew older in the foreseeable future. Higher mortgage rates are stretching budgets thin, while a dearth of housing inventory keeps prices elevated, meaning that new buyers need to build up a larger nest egg before hopping into the market. It makes sense that they would have to save for a longer period of time unless they have family help. But look, let's just say you get a job at 22, okay? I know some kids that are 22 years old that spend all their money partying all day long, all night long. When they're not working, they're blowing tremendous sums on alcohol and partying, party. It's very, very sad. And now they've gotten to the point where they're 26, 27 years old. They've saved no money. They have nothing in their bank accounts. And that is a behavioral trait. I mean, they had every opportunity to save their money and they didn't. They chose not to. They did the opposite. They blew it on stupid things. I'm not everybody, okay, because I help all kinds of first-time home buyers. And some people save and some people do a good job. Other people, they're not getting a house. Their behavior, financial behavior is not in any way able for them to get a house. It makes sense. Oh, so here we go. Um, Maybe people are less mature than they used to be. It says other changes in the typical first-time homebuyer also reflect in the growing challenges of saving up for a down payment. Now, I agree with this. Let's just say now. But watch. The article says that more people in their mid 30s are moving directly from their parents' house to a new home. Okay. So if that's the case, these people aren't paying rent. Or if they are paying rent, it's probably not a market rent. Okay. So then say you're 22 years old and you go and you don't live at your parents' house and you move out and now you are paying rent and the rent is prohibitively expensive and keeping you from being able to save money for a down payment on a home. Now I can understand that. I think that is accurate. But I don't have any sympathy for the person that's living in their parents' home until they're 35 years old and still don't have enough money for a down payment. And they've had a job since they were 22. I just don't. I just don't. So it says in 2020, the median household income for first-time homebuyers reached $90,539 in inflation-adjusted dollars, the highest level since 2001 and well above the national median income for all households of $71,186. The median income for repeat buyers also peaked at $117,753 that year. Median incomes for both first-time buyers and repeat buyers fell in 2021 to $71,000 and $96,000. But lots told me that the drop didn't necessarily mean that more homes became accessible to people with lower incomes. Rather, the people who ended up being able to make their first purchase were buying in markets that were cheaper in the first place. Or what I would see is you have these people that they could afford reasonably a better house. But because of the way the market was going, they would buy a house maybe one segment below them. Um, be, what they could afford because either they weren't sure they would ever get a house or they weren't interested when there were the huge bidding wars. They were like, by the time I get a house, I think I'd like to stay in a lower bracket and actually get the house. Let me try to explain it a different way. Let's just say that a young buyer could afford a $300,000 house. Okay. But when they went and looked at $300,000 houses, they knew instinctively and just through the market that they were going to have to pay maybe $350,000, $360,000 to actually get in that house. So instead of being at that $300,000 price range, they moved down to the $200,000 price range. And then they ran those prices up to $280,000, $290,000 because the people that were looking at the $200,000 prices at the very top could in no way compete. That's what I saw. It says we see more buyers in small towns, outer suburban areas, rural areas, and those who are more affordable areas overall where a buyer can purchase on a lower income. Well, that's what you have to do to get by. It says more new buyers are also delaying traditional life milestones like getting married or moving out of their parents' house. Unmarried couples accounted for 18% of first-time buyers between January 2021 and June 2022, the highest share recorded by the National Association of Realtors, up from 4% in 1985 and 12% in 2010. Well, some people say that getting married, is a good thing. And, maybe you should get married. If you want to buy a house, maybe that's the best way to combine incomes and get it married. Now, that's not to say that two people can't live together. I don't have any issues with that either. I'm just saying you need to have two incomes to be able to afford a home. It says, and many of today's hopeful homebuyers are trying to build up savings by living in their childhood bedrooms longer. 27% of first-time buyers in the National Association of Realtors' most recent survey moved directly from a parent member's home into the home they purchased, the highest percentage since recorded and up from 15% in 1989. That's crazy numbers, okay? Crazy. I'm not complaining about it. It's not that way. To me, there's demographic changes that are occurring in the United States, behavioral changes that are occurring in the United States, and that can help explain some of these statistics. Okay, if people aren't getting what's the traditional marriage age? Has that gone up? What's the divorce rate? Has that gone up? I mean, what is going on as a society? The racial makeup of first-time homebuyers also set records in 2022, but the lack of progress in Black home ownership was perhaps most shocking. Just 3% of first-time homebuyers last year were Black, the lowest percentage since the National Association began tracking the data in 2003, when about 6% of the cohort were Black. This seems racist just talking about it. The percentage of first-time homebuyers who were white hit a two-decade high of 88% last year, up from 83% in 2003. Again, though, to me, I mean, we're going to just do, here we've got Black, African American, we've got Hispanic, Latino, and we've got Asian Pacific Islander. All these, I mean, these numbers are kind of odd. So in 2003, there was 5%. Now there's only 2%. Then in Hispanic, Latino, it's 6% in 2022 and 8% in 2003 is 6%. In 2022 is 8%. Why aren't we talking about those numbers? I mean, it's like this is behavior. This is how you think about living in a home. And there's a lot going on here that's being reduced to color, and I think that's unfair to those groups being impacted by that. It's just my opinion. The gap mirrors the astonishing divide between white and black homeownership, which is now larger than it was in 1960 last year. And we've done so much, and yet we get these numbers that are terrible. 43.5% of black households own their home, compared with 74.6% of white households, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. That gap, 31 percentage points, is 2 points higher than it was more than 6 decades ago. The haves and have-nots. I do believe this. Housing market experts say the reason for these shifts come down to one major thing: affordability. I don't. I think it's behavior and attitudes towards owning a home. And let me just put it to you this way. Let me just put it to you in ways in my own lived experience. I lived in the south side of Detroit, okay? In like 2000, let's just say 2003, okay? The price of the homes in the neighborhood were maybe $25,000 to $30,000, okay? And you had to ask yourself, why am I living here? Well, partly affordability, okay? There's no question. But also, look at, why would you own in those areas when prices were never going to go up? Why would you put any money into a home where the prices aren't going up? That's something that I think most people really don't understand. If you live in an area where you think house prices are going up, and in fact, say you've lived in a house like I have, where I'm just literally sitting here and the house price goes up, okay? I'm more than willing to redo my bathroom, okay? Because I've got equity in the home. I'm more than willing to replace the roof when it's messed up. It's when you get into markets where there's no incentive, there's no equity being gained. Maybe it's a whole subdivision of rentals that people don't care. I mean, they're not interested in doing more. That's the problem. And then the attitude the logic to me is a real one. Why would you put money into a declining asset? It's the same thing with a car. Why are you putting why are you spending more money on a car that isn't worth anything or expected to go down in value? It says, so I don't believe that. I'm just telling you right now, the jumps in age and income and even the racial disparities reflect the brutally high barriers to entries for today's market. The typical down payment for a home more than doubled during the pandemic, reaching a peak of $66,000 in May of 2022. Yeah, they were saying the average home price was like $440,000. I mean, that's ridiculous. It says the market has really become a market of haves and have-nots. And the first-time home buyers are the ones who are losing in this environment. They do not have housing equity. They do not have the ability to quickly move into the housing market without that. But this is to me the wrong way to look at this. Because let's just take an example. Let's say I bought my house 20 years ago, okay? And it was probably at 5% interest rate. I mean, it's let's just say that, okay? And now my house is appreciated $100,000. And I looked and I'm like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Let me go out, and this was during the 2 and 3% craziness of 2021. Let me go out and buy a new house with my family, okay? And what you would find is, yes, you could buy a house for more money, okay, than what your house was worth. All right. So let's just say your house went from $100,000 to $200,000 over the time you lived there and you did nothing to it. Okay. And let's say you had a 4-bedroom, let's say you had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, less than 2,000 square feet. So let's say you want to move to a 5-bedroom, okay, 3-bath, over 2,000 square feet. Well, that house, when you bought your house at 100,000, was probably 200,000. Let's just say double. Okay. But now its price has increased to like 600,000. So like you're not getting in that house just because you have equity in your home. This is to me the problem of the market. I mean, what I see is a problem. If you do own a house right now, you cannot sell and get something better. Okay? That's not good. Not good. Um, Waiting longer to purchase your first home may not be entirely a bad thing. Older people tend to be more financially stable and have a clearer idea of what they want for the long term, says Daniel Hale, the chief economist at Realtor.com. But for better or for worse, home ownership remains the most popular form of building wealth for most American households. It's for worse. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea all the way around. A delayed home purchase can mean missing out on years that could have been spent amassing equity. The ability to build that housing wealth over a lifetime really does shrink. It's hard for me to read articles like this because it's such silliness. With more people delaying their first home purchases, the wealth gap between people who own a house and those on the outside of ownership will only grow. I mean, in theory, but what if the person that is renting is able to put, instead of money in a house payment, they're putting money in the stock market and the stock market returns, ridiculous percentages? Then what? Then what you wrote is wrong. Over the past decade, the average homeowner has accumulated 210,000 equity, according to the National Association of Realtors. Now, let's talk about inflation. Is this an inflation number? Is this an inflation adjusted number? The trends only compound for the bad economic news for millennials, who make up the majority of today's first-time buyers. Now, I don't understand that because we just talked about, unless millennials in their mid-30s now. Many members of the generation have suffered a series of setbacks, including the Great Recession and pandemic, in their adult lives, and they've accumulated more student debt and less wealth than previous generations as a result. Or colleges have become way too expensive and people keep paying for it, so it keeps happening. Now the housing market is doing them no favors. In the decade after the housing crash, builders started construction on roughly 21,000 single homes per 1 million people each year, barely half as many as they were building in each of the three decades prior. The underbuilding combined with the sheer size. But why were we underbuilding? Did it have to do with zoning laws? Did it have to do with NIMBY? Not in my backyard? The underbuilding combined with the sheer size of the millennial generation created an extreme housing crunch as many in the cohort aged into their prime home buying years. That leaves millennials and subsequent generations in a precarious position. They're scared they're not going to be able to ever afford a home. They're scared they won't be homes for them by the time they get there, said Wendy Gilch, the founder of Selling Later Search and the host of the podcast, The Real Estate Replay, in which he shares cautionary tales from buyers and sellers. They just feel abandoned. I mean, why don't you listen to my podcast? Why don't you watch my live stream? I have a totally different take than this. Hope is a fickle thing. There's some slight relief on the horizon for first-time homebuyers. The recent escalation in mortgage rates is making home payments more expensive, but it also means the bidding wars that defined the pandemic-era housing boom are now much less common. But I was just reading today that it's not unusual in Tampa Bay and Seattle to have bidding wars. Buyers who can stomach higher borrowing costs are finding they may no longer have to put in outrageous offers and waive inspections in order to have a chance of landing a home. Many housing experts have also predicted that cooling demand could result in home price declines this year, which could ease affordability concerns for buyers. But available homes, particularly the lower price starter homes that so many first-time buyers rely on, remain scarce. Yes, and let's talk about that. So what do you think a starter home is? Okay. Builders are not building starter homes. Okay. The neighborhood across the street from me, I think they're building it's a $700 million project. I think the cheapest home is in the 450s. And it's like a 1,600 square foot home. That ain't a starter home. You're less than 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. That's a starter home. Those things are going for like 200. Okay. So my argument is twofold. One, no one's building starter homes. Two, people that do live in starter homes may not really may be living in a starter home because they really can't afford anything else. It's not like they could buy their forever home. It says home builders who were ramping up construction when demand was hot during the first 2 years of the pandemic are now pulling back in the face of recession fears, which will only deepen the shortage. Yeah, just don't agree in general. I mean, recession fears are real, and I don't know. We'll talk about it at some point. I don't think that home builders are uniquely positioned. Um, I mean, they are very, very greedy, very, very greedy. Anyway, policymakers are taking note of the bleak prospects for first-time homebuyers. In 2021, House Democrats introduced two bills that aim to level the playing field. The First-Time Homebuyer Act, which would also offer a tax credit equal to 10% of the purchase price of a home, up to $15,000. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's not even helpful at all. And by the way, when you do a federal program, okay, and pick this number, like, what are you getting in Seattle for 15,000 as a down payment with a home equity? It's just ridiculous. And the Down Payment Toward Equity Act, which would issue grants of up to $25,000 for first-time buyers, the latter has advanced to the full chamber, both in the face of an uphill climb in a Republican-controlled House. So what you're saying is, if it's all Democrats, it would all be perfect and everything would be fine. It's ridiculous. It says nonprofits around the country are working with potential homebuyers to provide down payment assistance and financial education. I mean, there you go, financial education. But the work can only go so far without massive policy overhauls to aid first-time buyers. No offense, but like, if you're 40 years old and you can't afford a house, okay, it doesn't matter if you're a first-time homebuyer or a 12th-time homebuyer. You're in a bad situation. It says without federal resources like that, it will always be a game of catch-up, and we will always be falling behind the times. Said Sunshine Mathon, the CEO of Piedmont Housing Alliance, one of those nonprofits in Charlottesville, Virginia. Look, keep asking the federal government to be a part of it and watch how bad things turn out. Ultimately, though, the struggles of first-time homebuyers reflect a fundamental disconnect in the U.S. housing market. Shelter is a universal need, but homeowners also expect their investments to increase in value. The prospect of cheap and plentiful housing represents a direct threat to that. Well, so what they're saying there is that greedy homeowners now are being mean to, first-time homebuyers and buyers who do not have a home. So we want to make them expensive. I don't. I don't. I don't feel any joy in knowing how much my current home is worth, because again, even though it's worth a lot, it's not like I can go out and get a better home. I don't win. If we're just relying on the unrestricted markets around home ownership costs, frankly, it will be out of reach for young people and many communities of color in perpetuity. So you want to restrict markets? That's going to fix the problem. Rent controls? When is that going to fix anything? It says the dynamic is broken. I first spoke with Teledge, the Richmond area would-be homebuyer, in December. 3 years had passed since he had backed away from the $350,000 home in his area, a steal by today's standards, even if it needed tens of thousands of dollars worth of repairs. He couldn't shake the feeling that an opportunity like that wouldn't come around again. Oh, it will. I'm telling you, it will. It isn't going to, like, just because you want to buy a house doesn't mean the house's prices are going to go down. The dynamic is broken for the foreseeable future. I don't see it going back anytime soon. About a month later, we talked again, and he had an update. He had just gone under contract on a 3-bedroom house for $385,000. It was pricier than the home he almost bought in 2019, and it needed another $10,000 worth of work. But it was an area where the good school district, about 5 minutes from his parents' place. The guy can afford a $385,000 house. I mean, we're not talking about people that, that's a lot of money. For Teledge, the pending purchase is a bittersweet conclusion to his home buying journey. Despite finally winning out on a home, he said he felt no more optimistic about the state of the housing market than he did a month ago. He attributes his success mostly to luck. The seller needed to make a deal quickly and was willing to cut down the original asking price of $419,000. Like, seriously, now the guy stole a house. Maybe he was trying to do that all along. And at a time of year when sellers are typically slower, take away those circumstances, and Teledge isn't sure where we would end up. I have a sinking feeling if I had not moved on this one, it would be more of the same nonsense. This story is written poorly. The examples are not good. If you're a millennial, look, if you're a millennial, okay, if you're a first-time home buyer, do these things. Save money where you can, okay? It's just that simple. Save money where you can. When you have enough money for a down payment, when your credit is good, don't screw up your credit. Make sure you can make your house payments. These car payments, if you're paying more than $1,000 for a car, it's crazy. Knock it off. Don't do that. You can still get a house in America. Okay. Don't let negative articles like this keep you from being able to achieve your dream. What happens when this guy, he bought a 385, he got a 400,000 or he got a $40,000 discount, okay? What happens when the market goes down? They can write another article about him where it was such a terrible situation that he bought a house right at the top of the market, even though he basically stole the house. I mean, he got a great deal. And I mean, no, save your money. You can do it. Don't put your head down. You can do it. That's all I'm going to say. Last article of the night. Race to cut costs. I thought this was interesting. I thought we should go over this. Mike Delpreet. This guy is on top of his game. He gets it. Just a great source. Okay, so these are operating expenses. These are the biggest brokerages in the millions of dollars. Okay, and then it shows them being cutting across the real estate industry. Companies are racing to cut costs in the face of a significant market slowdown. Why it matters? With dropping revenue, cost control is one of the only levers in a company's control, and is the key to sustainable, profitable business. The need to cut costs and the depth of those cuts are a function of companies' overall financial health and business model efficiency. Some companies like EXP have the advantage of a more efficient business model with lowering operating expenses. Compared to its peers, EXP is servicing a disproportionately high number of transactions with relatively modest operating expenses. The more traditional industry behemoths, anywhere, which is like Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Better Homes and Gardens, that company, and Compass, have a less efficient model with a much higher cost basis and thus need to cut faster and deeper. So here's your operating expenses and there's your transactions. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Dig deeper, it says another measure of the business model efficiency is the amount of revenue generated per $1 spent on operating expenses. Based on this metric, EXP was about 3 times more efficient in Q3 2022 than its publicly listed brokerage peers who are all in the $3 to $4 range. Isn't that interesting? Compass has been racing to cut its operating expenses as quickly as possible, but it also recently announced a third round of layoffs. Doesn't stop the lady that keeps sending stuff to me in my neighborhood. Am I jealous? No. I sent stuff to my neighborhood, and after a while, I just gave up. I was like, whatever. Layoffs are the most visible way that real estate tech companies are cutting costs. Since June of 2022, Compass has shed around 1,700 employees, while Redfin has also cut deep with 2,000 fewer employees. Now, look, Redfin, they were in the iBuyer market, and so they lost a lot of money. I don't think Compass got into the iBuyer market, so I don't think they had to worry, but they were out there just telling people, come work for us, and we've got all these great benefits and stuff, and that just wasn't going to hold. Many other real estate tech companies have also enacted significant layoffs to cut costs in some cases in order to survive. Now, look, they're not cutting agents. You're never going to cut agents, okay? Agents are like gold. They make you the money. You are going to cut expenses. So the lady that used to be at the front desk, she's gone. Like that's, the guy that did the websites, he's gone. That's those kind. It says, while among the big brokerages anywhere, Compass and Redfin have already made significant cost reductions, while EXP and Douglas Eielman are under less pressure to cut costs. But look, this is real estate tech staff layoffs since June of 2022. Open Door is shockingly low, but some of these are not like, to me, these are, I would say real estate tech, except for Redfin and Compass. These other companies are not, they're not brokerages. It says, cost reductions limit a company's ability to invest in future growth opportunities. Example, Compass has paused all expansion in new markets and anywhere shut down its cash buying program. Well, you couldn't. It was a terrible idea. You needed to. And then Compass, don't even get me started. The bottom line, the market downturn is forcing all real estate tech companies to cut their expenses in order to achieve or maintain profitability. Unprofitable companies with high cash burn and high fixed costs have no choice but to cut and to cut deep to survive, while other companies operating more efficient, low cost operating models are under less pressure to make big cuts and may be better placed to invest in future growth. Well, that's true. Nothing wrong with that. What do you think? Let's get back to here. So there you have it. I don't believe for a moment that first time home buyers or millennials are automatically in a bad spot. I've helped plenty of millennials get homes and they've been okay. It's all about kind of financial discipline. As long as you have employment, if you don't have good employment, you're never going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter what generation you're a part of. So there's that. With that, I'm going to head on out. Hey, if you could do me, subscribe on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. I would really appreciate it. If you don't want to do that, come and hang out in the chat. You know, let's grow my real estate live stream. I think there's so much we can learn together, and I want to share it all with you. With that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.